Welcome to another episode of the RJWebinars, which are hosted by the Restorative Justice for All International Institute. I have a special guest today, Petra from the Czech Republic. And our topic is obviously restorative justice in the context of bias-motivated harm, or some people call them hate crimes or hate offences. Before I start firing my questions, Petra, do you want to introduce yourself? And thank you for doing this webinar with me.
Okay, so my name is Petra Šachová, and I'm the founder and leader of the Czech Institute for Restorative Justice. I work also as a researcher on the law faculty university in Palacký University in Olomouc.
Quite a lot of hats, like me. I think you have this unique combination of research, academia, but also practice, which is very important, I think, when you start talking about restorative justice and complicated harms which revolve around power abuse, and they're not just as straightforward as shoplifting or theft. And I think hate violence or bias motivated violence is one of them. Things that we explore in these webinars is the potentials, but also the risks that are associated with restorative justice practices. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you just generally the situation in your country, but also maybe you can speak even broader than that in Europe, of what your sense is in relation to hate language, hate violence on the ground. Is it going up? Is it going down? What is the kind of feeling, but also kind of the general attitude towards this type of violence?
Okay. I think I don't see very big specifics in compared to the other European countries. Maybe we have a little bit specific situation when compared to the Eastern European countries, or to the post-communism countries like Slovakia, Poland, Hungary. So this is where the democracies are maybe questioned in those times, and they are coming through some difficult situations, which might also support some language in the societal space or the communication in the country. So we have till now, we are still doing well in this sense. And so in compared to those three countries, I think that the situation is better. But we have also topics that are very specific for this country, and they are mostly related when we are talking about hate crime to the citizens who have Roma origins, and this is something that was that's a story in the Czech Republic with its very complicated history. Also, there is a new situation during the war in Ukraine, because we have a lot of people who came to the country from Ukraine, and it was also some sensitive questions and issues when those people were coming were also present in the Czech dialogue in the society.
Okay. Now the opposite of this question is, what is the current status of restorative justice in the Czech Republic, both in terms of legislation, but also practice on the ground?
We have quite a long history, because we had a specific situation that already 25 years ago Probation and Mediation Service as a state institution was established, and it was, I think, unique also in the European space because it connected like mediation and probation under one roof. And so there were big expectations from the very beginning. Towards the development of restorative justice and restorative programs and how it developed, and maybe which questions and difficulties it led to, was the fact that mediation as the main restorative program was mainly used in the minor crimes and in the diversions. So we didn't have actually the experience that you can use restorative programs in more serious crimes. Sometimes it was also applied in more serious cases, but it was not the rule. And from the legal point of view, it was mainly connected to the cases that were really like by law defined as minors and where diversions can apply. So like if you also look in the in the legal books and texts, you could find that restorative justice is connected just to this specific field or area, that it means like using restorative justice actually meant diversions, and restorative justice for some reasons meant alternative sanctions. So these were some misunderstandings that complicated the further development. And I would say that also like the main focus in some point of the probation and mediation service was on the probation. So, and it had various reasons. And so the numbers, when you see it from the probation and mediation service history, are not very high in regard to how mediation was used. On the other hand, like probation mediation service, due to some projects, also brought to the practice family group conferences used like for the youth crime. So that was kind of a very good innovation. And so that for years that was the practice. So restorative justice meant something for less serious crimes, diversions, and the change, I would say, was brought for us the Council of Europe recommendation on restorative justice, and like a project Restorative Justice Strategies for Change that was initiated by Ian Marder and from the Maynooth University. And he just brought like together 10 European countries and European Forum for Restorative Justice. And the aim was to create in each country a group of people, so-called core members, who would initiate further steps with the goal for wide implementation of this recommendation. So that was it. And I was asked to be the coordinator of the Czech group. And I had really great colleagues in the beginning. So it was 2019, I would say. And so like the director of the probation and mediation service was involved, and a person from the Ministry of Justice, from prison service, from the research institution, another colleague from academia. So we had like a good combination of people from different institutions. And like the first step was that we decided that we really need like a strategy of restorative justice for the Czech Republic. And we invented like a series of restorative circles that involved people from all the institutions, from criminal law agencies and professionals taking part on the criminal process. And we were discussing main questions like what are the obstacles of further implementations and what shall be the strategic goals for the future. So we made like 10 of those circles and we put it all together, created the strategy that in the end was taken as a part of the program declaration of the current government that is now on the end of its term. So that was important that that also the government and Ministry of Justice had declared its willingness to do some steps and improve the state of restorative justice in the Czech Republic. So I think that was the main thing. And like 1 year after, also the Czech Institute for Restorative Justice was established. And we also then, as a organization with the support of the core members from this project, we initiated something that we called Restorative Platform, which was a platform for like 50 people from all the professions taking part on the criminal proceedings and also from different levels from the system. So there were judges from the highest court, police officers operating as the first level police officers, attorneys at law, etc. And we were putting together recommendations for each of the profession how to do the work restoratively. And that was the beginning, how we started to work with the term restorative justice in a different way. Because the recommendation was, from my point of view, very inventive in the way that it declared also that we need some changes in the culture of justice, and it defined some basic restorative principles, and it is saying that the principles can be used in various ways, and that it's not only recalling itself on the restorative programs, but in some thinking and working in the system in general. So we were putting together recommendations that were saying that were supporting victim needs in the process, their voices, like steps that were supporting offenders' responsibility, supporting to deal with the core issues of the criminality, and also like how to make better the situations from the offender's perspective, and also how to do or how to do restorative programs, good part of the criminal proceedings. So, and the result was like a handbook for the Czech restorative practice. So that was like we were more working like the Czech Institute was from the beginning more working like on some advocacy issues and education and recommendations for the practice. So we are teaching judges, state prosecutors in this area of a more general restorative approach. And and so and besides that, we were also starting to open the question that restorative programs shall be here also for the more serious crimes, and that also the NGO sector shall be involved, which was those two things were new, and it was a very sensitive issue for, again, various reasons. But like last year, we were really having, we came to the point that we were together with the Probation and Mediation Service on the Ministry of Justice, organizing a roundtable with the claim of everybody's right on the restorative program, and that we shall have like a nationwide net of restorative programs, and everybody who needs that shall have access to it.
I was not aware of all that. I mean, that's such a good case study in Europe, but also very complementary, it sounds, because just to give you the example of the UK, it's almost the opposite. So the NGO sector and the community sector is what was doing restorative justice for 30 years before it came to the attention of the government and of the probation. And, you know, the fight is to get it into the formal justice system, whereas in your case, it was the probation and mediation service that started it, which it's quite interesting to have this comparison and see, you know, the different fights that we're having to increase awareness, I guess. And I think it comes down to what you said. It's about the right of every victim and offender to be offered, and if they want to opt or not. But it is about that right that I think everybody should have in the criminal justice process. So yeah, just to now kind of challenge a little bit, which I think you started talking about this, and moving away from what you said as a kind of the low-level crimes or juvenile offenders, or, you know, people thinking of restorative justice as being kind of the get offenders off the hook or an easy way out, you know, easy penalties, diversions, and all of those things. And I think the last time we met was when I was drafting the code for OSE, for the hate crime practical guide for restorative justice. And one of the concerns that came out of that exercise, but just generally it exists in the literature, is that restorative justice, we talk a lot about its potential with hate violence on complex cases, including domestic violence, sexual abuse, you know, gender-based violence more generally, but also hate violence. But actually, we don't get a lot of practices. So there's a lot of theory, there's a lot of talk, a lot of promises. It can rehabilitate, you know, it can help the victim. But do we have, in your view, examples of restorative justice practices that deal with this type of violence, either at the preventative or at the control stage, at least in your country, or if you know more generally, any examples of practices, of actual practices?
When we were thinking like how to start like this question in the Czech Republic, we of course ask for the foreign experience in Europe, and we had a project that we had great partners from Finland and from Belgium. And in both countries, they have experience with using restorative programs in serious crimes, and they were also their representatives also help us to help the first course on facilitation skills in serious crimes in the Czech Republic. So we are also trying to bring here the knowledge and experience like from abroad, and support the people like to learn it in a proper way. So like the concern of quality is one of the main like issues that we are focusing on. But we have we have few cases that I can name, or we actually started this. We have program called Reset that's open for everybody. Like without limitation on the seriousness of the crime, to take part on restorative process. And we started to pilot this program in the Czech prisons. So the last 2 years we were like piloting in Czech 3 Czech prisons restorative programs in serious crimes. So we have the first few experiences, and definitely it's a new chapter in the Czech development. And of course, there are like examples and experiences also from the probation and mediation service, because as I said, like they were mainly focused on the minor crimes as the law defines them. But in several cases, you could find also cases where, for example, the death of somebody was an issue, or where serious harm was caused. So it's not like that we are building it on anything, but the experience is not high in the moment. That's for sure.
And do you think, I mean, in your opinion, if I'm a victim of hate violence or of extremism, how would you convince me? What are the risks that you think are associated with this practice? And how would you convince me to say, oh, actually, yeah, I think that could be a better way of dealing with your case?
I think it's very important that for specific types of crimes that you have specific training, and that you get it from the experts who are working with hate crimes, from experts that are working with gender-based violence, domestic violence. That those like types of crimes have specific features, and also the power balance between the people. So it's something that the good facilitator has to know, needs to know, a knowledge and further like experience. But in the end, it's always like a situation between two people, and if this is for them the way how they want to deal it and face it, I think like nothing shall be in the end like the obstacle why not to do it, because in the end it's always like for me, because I see restorative justice as something very natural, like when you have a normal conflict between two people, I see restorative justice as something very natural of whatever type. It's natural. You need to talk, you need to communicate, you need to see like how it will get improved, that the person apologizes. And so in the basis, I see restorative justice as something very simple and natural, like for our daily lives, and so I totally agree that there has to be like a set of recommendations and steps and knowledge about this specific field. But I don't see it like, I don't see the reason, or give me your reason, like why you think it won't be suitable for this specific type of crime.
Yeah, and I think the point that you make about training and the requirements for, having an extra kind of layer of knowledge when it comes to complex cases is a very good point. It's in the Victims Directive, as you know, in the restorative justice related articles. It requires specific trainings, qualifications within the safeguards framework for victims. But at the same time, it's also what you said, restorative justice is a very organic, natural way of resolving conflict. So let's not forget that, and that was the original way of dealing with conflicts and harm in the early communities that we created as human beings. So, how do you reach the balance, of course, is a different conversation. And I think, in my view, the restorative justice movement has struggled and continues to struggle to get the balance right. And I have criticized ready-made packages that pretend to make restorative justice practitioners within 3 days, and then, off you go, start doing restorative justice. I think that's not appropriate. And I have seen restorative justice working really well, and I have seen restorative justice doing harm. It's just, as you said, how you do it, and also how genuine the participation of the parties is, because at the end, it's all about the parties, isn't it? It's about the harmed and the harming party. How we empower them to have that conversation is what I think the heart of restorative justice is, and of any practitioner. So yeah, I mean, like you, I'm always very evidence-based. So if I have the evidence and it points in the right direction, and in fact, as you know, the evidence is saying that the more complex the case is, the more successes, potential successes are for restorative justice. The more complex the case is, the more successes, potential successes are for, and it actually makes sense because the parties invest a lot more in something that is more complex, that is impacting on their lives. If it's not as important to them, they won't invest time. And this is what, in my view, restorative justice needs: investment, personal investment, and accountability, transformation, and a process of, of sharing the power. As you mentioned the word power, and if we're not there to share it, I think of all the trainings that we can receive and all the degrees and all the standards and all the guides, it would fail. So I think that the point that you made is absolutely critical to, both in, I think, what you're trying to do in the Czech Republic, and I think the achievements that you listed are quite significant, I think. And in other countries, and I know there are initiatives, Council of Europe, the European Commission, I know is very keen. They're reviewing the Victims Directive, just to see where the new victim strategy will go. And I think this kind of examples that you gave, but also, the point about getting the right balance, I think they're important points to make. Yeah. So now, any other conclusions, and especially kind of, I like to kind of conclude with a message of hope most of the times. And when I was doing my interviews for ROSA, for the practical guide, there was just generally a very grey cloud of, we are experiencing a hate rhetoric, in Hungary, for example, what is being said around the world with the wars that are taking place, the situation in Gaza. And it's just generally a feeling of, things are getting worse, and there's a lot of hate language, a lot of hate narrative has been normalized, all of those things, which is probably true. But I think as people of a certain generation, and feeling that we need to provide some hope and some good messages to, all the students that want to learn about restorative justice or different ways of dealing with conflict with their parents, with their partners, or just to help us criminologists. What would be kind of your overall message of hope and guidance?
Well, we are now in a hope in the Czech Republic. We have some good news because, for years we were preparing changes in the criminal code and procedural code. I participated with a group of people and other academics and people from the field, on big changes in the Czech criminal code and the Czech procedural code. Criminal procedural code, and one of them was, and that was it was initiated by the restorative platform that I was talking about, was to add restorative justice as a main principle for the criminal procedural code. So it has 15 other main principles, and now restorative justice is one of them, and it passed through the Senate last Thursday. So
Okay.
it's something new, and why I'm talking about it and why I think it's important and why I'm very excited about the future. Because I'm a lawyer and I see the things from the legal perspective, and I think that the restorative principles can really serve us to somehow redefine the whole criminal law from a different point of view, and it's the criminal law has a specific structure. It's a public law. It's the distribution of the power goes through the judge, the state prosecutor. The state prosecutor is representing the interest of the society as well of the victim, and the victim has very limited possibilities of participation on the criminal process. And I think that restorative principles can really help us to look on the way differently, and to stop to be stuck in the limit of the features of the public law, that it has to be like this. And I think it's a unstoppable process. We can see it also in the work of the European Court on Human Rights, how the role of the victim is kind of getting more supported. And so I also this taking part of restorative justice as a main principle from the criminal proceedings here. I'm really excited, what it would all mean. And we also, in the same time, with my colleague Katerina Solu, we initiated a working group on restorative justice and the law as a working group of the European Forum for Restorative Justice. So we now have a group of people, academics, people from the law field, to really talk together, how we will change our. If we take the restorative glasses, and we look on the punishment, how it would look differently. When we look on the notion of guilt, how it will look. What are the goals of the sanction if we have in mind the restorative principles? What shall be the position of the victim? And I think that it's kind of a new discussion, because there were already, of course, people discussing it previously in the literature on the academic level. But I think we are now opening some space for more deeper reconsiderations of criminal law from the restorative perspective. And for me as a lawyer, it's really exciting time to see this and be part of it. So this is my hope, for me as Petra lawyer person, what will happen in this, because I really want to see criminal justice as something that has a meaning, that is just, and that can really help people in the end and not cause more harm.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know, as you know, I come from the same background. I'm a lawyer as well, and that's why I understand when people come to you with a case, you need to see it seriously, and just okay, I know I've got this piece of legislation. I know the process. I know what I'm going to do to support you, and I think that responsibility taking shouldn't be just about the offender, but also the practitioner. And it's great news that you have this development. I think I didn't know about this, but I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it, because I think it sounds like you're doing quite a lot of innovative work in the Czech Republic that people are not aware of. So I think hopefully that will increase some awareness. carry on the good work. It was
you.
a real pleasure having you as part of the webinar series. Yeah, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the invitation and your kind words. Thank you.